Welcome to our podcast, The Better You Are, The Better You Are. Whether it is physically, mentally, or spiritually, when you know better, you can do better. And when you do better, you'll be better. On this podcast, we share knowledge, expertise, opinions, and experiences. All things that can help you to change the game. By the time we're done, it's hard for you not to be encouraged. So join us. The better you are, the better you are.
So let's start off with some statistics. According to the American Cancer Society, breast cancer is the most common cancer diagnosed among women in the United States, and it is the second leading cause of death from cancer among women, only lung cancer killing more women each year. Over 300,000 new cases of breast cancer will be diagnosed, they predict, in 2024. 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime. And unfortunately, over 40,000 deaths related to breast cancer are expected. As with many other healthcare concerns, Black women are affected more aggressively, often with this condition. Black women are 40% more likely to die of breast cancer than white women and are twice as likely to die if they are younger than 50. Okay, I'm thoroughly excited to have our discussion on breast cancer today. We have Dr. Monet Williams Bowling. Dr. Bowling leads the breast cancer team at Hendricks Regional Health in Indiana. She is board certified in surgery and fellowship trained in breast surgical oncology. She hails from Decatur, Georgia. She attended Spelman College, where she obtained a BS in biology, and then went on to Indiana University, where she earned a master's degree in medical science and a medical degree. Her general surgery training was completed at Indiana University, and she completed her fellowship training at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas. She is highly renowned in her field and a passionate crusader in the fight against breast cancer. Dr. Bowling is happily married to Don Bowling II, a teacher and varsity boys basketball coach at a local high school, and she is the mother of twin boys and a young daughter. She describes her family as the pride of her life and her most rewarding accomplishment. She enjoys creating wonderful humans that will contribute their gifts to the world. She always has a welcoming smile, and despite her busy work and personal life, she did not hesitate to agree to be a part of today's program. I thank you all for being here today, and I'm excited to get on with this discussion. We had a very important and educational conversation with Dr. Monet Bowling regarding breast cancer. We were able to talk with her about the importance of preventative screening. As with any disease process, the earlier we catch it and the better we treat it, the better the patients will do. So the goal of treatment with breast cancer, or any cancer for that matter, is to manage the disease as best as possible before it gets out of control. And so she's going to give us some reasoning of why we want to make sure we have preventative strategies and maintain them when we evaluate for breast cancer.
Dr. Lauren, there are so many reasons why we do preventative medicine to take care and to find breast cancers early. One of the most important reasons is that we're able to take care of a smaller cancer before the patient shows up with something more advanced. And that means that we can find something that's localized within the breast and that has not spread to other organs or other parts of the body. Commonly, breast cancer can spread to the lymph nodes. That's usually the first place that something will go, or it can spread to other organs, meaning the lung, the liver, the brain, or the bone. And so if we are doing early mammograms kind of annually, every year, starting at the age of 40, we can catch disease very early. So that we prevent the spread. The other reason is that in catching disease early and being preventative about taking care of our breast cancer, we can stop basically before something turns into a whole cancer. As our guests were talking about earlier, one of them had what I would call a pre-malignant lesion. And that lesion, if followed, could never turn into cancer. But that is one of the reasons why we follow those patients very much along their high risk way because we want to prevent them from having a cancer. Or if it is a cancer, it is a stage 0 cancer versus a stage 1 cancer by the time we find it. I think that for those two reasons alone, it's very important for us to be preventative and being able to find diseases. And then just in cancer in general, the reason for preventative disease or prevention of breast cancer is that, or any other type of cancer, is that we're able to take care of people before the disease gets out of control. And that becomes important because there are financial burdens, there are
Yes.
family burdens, there are healthcare burdens,
Yes.
there are, ways that we can kind of tone all of that down. And prevention is so much easier than caring for disease. And I think that we don't give that enough attention to be able to help prevent something from happening versus throwing a drug at it or being able to diagnose something once it's seen. So for all of those reasons, it's very important for us to do prevention instead of just caring for the cancer.
Sometimes we know that people are reluctant to go to their provider for cancer screening or healthcare matters. This is particularly important in breast cancer or any cancer screening for that matter. And Dr. Bowling shares her thoughts and recommendations regarding seeking healthcare and regular screening processes.
Dr. Lauren, in our community, we have talked for a while on today about kind of what keeps people from coming to the doctor and how does that happen when something's going on. And, we always say, if you know better, you do better. And I think that there is a fear factor because people don't want to know because it will disrupt your life, right? So when you are diagnosed with a cancer, it is not just you that is involved. Your whole entire family or your family unit or lack thereof becomes exposed to this diagnosis. And I think that is the first thing, is the fear factor. The second thing is that unfortunately we live in a society where none of these treatments are cheap. And so monetary reasons that people don't have insurance, they're insured or underinsured or not insured at all, and they don't feel like they have options for treatment. And I think we need to be very certain that we tell patients all the time that even without insurance, you have options.
Amen.
There are ways to care for patients with no money. It's not an easy process, but it is definitely a process that we can handle. And then I would say culturally, Black and Brown people fear the medical system because of history.
Yes.
And I think that you mentioned as we were having these conversations, and we have talked about this before, that fear of the medical system is probably one of the reasons why people like us got into medicine. You need to be able to see a face that looks like me. And not everyone has bad intentions, but when people can hear their diagnosis from a woman or they can hear it from someone of color, sometimes it can help kind of lessen the burn that comes with that bad news or that opinion, that people can kind of go through this because they know someone who understands them culturally. And I think that cultural relevance has become a part of medical care. As we take care of people, they want to know that you understand their background. And I think that we now know that being culturally relevant makes a huge difference, and the empathy that comes along with whatever the situation is.
Exactly. I agree. Breast cancer is not just an issue for women. There is a significant risk for breast cancer in men, particularly if their family history is positive for cancers, including breast cancer. That's why it's important to know a family history and the importance of screening sometimes in men. And Dr. Bowling is going to talk about that.
Dr. Lauren, one of the things that we rarely hear about, and because of its rarity, people don't discuss it out in the open, but there is also a 1% chance that men could develop breast cancer. That number is staggeringly high when they have a strong family history of breast cancer, or if they're genetically positive, or if their family is genetically positive. That number shifts, and it's not just 1%. It's not 1% for them. it can be up to 80% chance that they could develop breast cancer if they're a gene carrier. But men think that breast cancer is only a female problem because they don't have the same amount of breast tissue. And believe it or not, that 1% is significant when you're talking about 300,000 people developing breast cancer. 1% comes up to a higher number than you would expect. And so men should pay attention to their family history, because if their mothers, if their sisters, if their aunts, if their grandmothers were breast cancer survivors or had a diagnosis of breast cancer, that could put them at an increased risk. And then if they are gene carriers, they actually may need to be seen to have mammograms and to have clinical breast exams on an annual basis to make sure that nothing is missed. I think that one of the things that is very important is I see men who were gene carriers and they thought because they didn't have a lot of women and there was lots of prostate cancer in their family, several young patients with prostate cancer, but they didn't have a lot of women. They didn't have sisters. They were still diagnosed with breast cancer, hereditary breast cancer that was carried in their DNA. And it didn't manifest as a prostate cancer. It manifested as a breast cancer. And they had no clue that those two things were not mutually exclusive. So I think that it is very important for men. It is only a 1% chance in the general population, but can be higher if you have a family history of breast cancer or you're a gene carrier.
Yep. Another good reason to know your family history. Talk amongst your family members and understand what's going on.
Be very honest with your family about what's going on.
Thank you for listening in today. Weren't you inspired, encouraged, and uplifted? We hope so, because we're praying the best for you. Join us again next time for more betterment, because the better you are, the better you are.